Hello, welcome to the Danesh Show. I'm Noah Danesh, and today we have a very special guest, Mr. George Gore II. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
So can you first tell us a little bit about yourself?
Just George.
George.
Born in North Carolina, grew up in Maryland. I now live in Los Angeles. Former actor, director, current writer, producer. That's pretty much it.
So you started, a long story short, basically. You started acting when you were 4 years old.
Yes.
How did your parents, why did they get you started, and how did they influence you?
So what happened was, when I was 3 years old, I emceed a Christmas program at my preschool. And there was a lady in the audience who knew a talent manager in New York and suggested to my parents that, hey, your kid might have some talent. Maybe you should send this tape to this manager and just see what happens. So my parents sent the tape, and then about a month or two after that, she calls back and she wants to meet me. We go up there, we meet. I'm 4 years old at this point, and I have a solo interview with a grown-up. And apparently I was impressive enough, and that got me started in my career.
Wow. And then how do you think your parents have influenced you throughout your journey?
My parents have been, basically without them I wouldn't be where I am today. I wouldn't be who I am. My parents were very, very supportive. My parents sacrificed a lot to help me continue my career because we lived in Maryland, but I would have to go to New York back and forth multiple times a month to go on auditions and things like that. And, that gets expensive, that gets time consuming, and my parents, particularly my mother, just kept at it, and here I am today, so.
Having your parents' support is one of the most important.
Having parent support is of the utmost importance.
Yes. What do you think is one of the hardest parts about acting throughout your young life?
Well, as a child, the hardest part was trying to balance that with just being a kid. I still went to regular school until I started doing TV shows where I had to have a tutor on set. But, all the traveling, I would go to New York, I would return back to Maryland at, 1, 2 o'clock in the morning, then I would wake up and go to school the next day. And, between doing that, between just missing a lot of school, there was 1 year I missed over 100 days of school.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, but, I still had to do my work, and I still had to maintain my grades. So, as a child, that was the hardest thing. And as I transitioned into adulthood, it's just mainly focusing on it and viewing it as it's a job. Mm-hmm. When you're an adult, it's a job. You have to be professional. You have to be on time. You have to know your lines. You have to know what you're doing, and you have to perform. And you treat that just like anyone goes into any other job.
Yeah. And then what do you think on the opposing side is what was your favorite part of acting?
I don't know. I guess it was my hobby. Mm-hmm. Some kids play sports, some kids did other things. I just happened to be on television. So, it was a hobby to me. And then as I got older, I love entertaining. I love, being able to make people laugh, being able to make people cry, whatever it may be, whatever the role calls for. And, I'm fairly comfortable in front of the camera. So, it's kind of home to me.
And then once you finished high school, you landed a role in My Wife and Kids.
Yes.
How did that come about?
Well, my senior year of high school, I was actually going to leave the business because I wanted to go to college and, just kind of be a guy.
Like a normal one.
Yeah. And got a call, this audition, there's a show with Damon Wayans, always knew him and loved him from In Living Color and everything that he had done previously. And my mother really had to talk me into going on the audition.
Really?
Honestly,
so your mom wanted you to go?
Yeah, my mom wanted me to go. I didn't want to go. My mother just said, I had nothing to lose. By that time I was already accepted into college and, I was okay. Mm-hmm. So Mom wanted me to go. Can't say no to Mom. So I went, and honestly, it was probably the worst audition of my life.
Really?
I think so, at least. And apparently someone thought otherwise.
Wow. So yeah, someone thought otherwise, and you became one of the main characters of the show.
Yes.
And then how was it like balancing, having such a major role, and then did you go to college or?
I did not go to college. I was on scholarship to go to school, and I lost my scholarship because I had to move out here, and the school was back east. Mm-hmm. So I decided just to take the chance. Most television shows don't go past the first season.
Yeah.
So my thing was, if it didn't go past the first season, I'd go back home, I'd go to school, I'd be okay. And over 100 episodes later.
Yeah, it did go. It went,
yeah.
How many seasons? It went 4 or 5 years?
Yeah, we did 5 seasons, but we did so many episodes. We did enough episodes for close to 7 seasons.
Wow.
Yeah.
And then what was it like being on the set there, being around all these people going daily to
It
film?
was it was an amazing experience. It was probably an experience I'll never be able to replicate doing anything else I ever do in my career. It was basically where I grew up. You know, I started doing the show when I was 17, and you know, I was away from home by myself, and you know, that's where I grew up. That's where I met my California friends. That's where I learned a lot of the ins and outs of the industry. That's where I learned how to do multiple things other than just acting. It's the first time I directed.
You directed?
Yeah, I directed 2
show.
episodes, yeah. And I learned how to write. I learned how to do all of these things. So my wife and kids was college to me. It was film school.
You basically got exposed to all the aspects.
Yes, everything that you know people go to school for, I learned right then and there.
That's great. Yeah, so you took a film school basically by being on the show.
Yeah, I had 5 years of film school.
And then, so now looking back at all your acting, what do you think? What would you have advice for new actors coming up?
Be professional. You know, work. It's not easy. It's a job, and like with any other job that anyone would have, work at it. Be professional. Show up on time. You know, there's the whole Hollywood stereotype of everyone's late. or things like that. No, show up on time. Know your lines. Know what you're supposed to do. Pay attention, and also learn what everyone else does. You know, learn other aspects of the business. Learn what's done behind the scenes. Learn everything that's going on around you when you're on set. Learn everything that's happening. It makes your life so much easier. And last but not least, just be nice. Be nice to people.
That's
Yeah. If you're nice to people, people will be nice to you. Good things will happen.
Yep.
You know, don't be nice.
So now moving into your more recent years, you've been producing and writing.
Yes.
What do you like about that?
I like the anonymity of it. I'm not good at being famous. You know what I mean? I'm not. I'm not the best at being recognized when I go out. You know, I'm thankful for it because it means people love the show and people love what I did. But I'm a quiet guy. I like just being behind the scenes. I like being creative. You know, I've always gravitated to creative people, and I just love being able just to wake up every day and just make up something from scratch.
What have you been doing recently?
Well, recently, a couple years ago, produced a show and starred on a show called Second Generation Wayans on BET, and then subsequently after that, started doing some uncredited writing and things like that. Just really focusing more on my writing now.
Improving your writing skills.
Yeah, and just kind of starting from the bottom and not trying to use what I've done to boost that, but just see me as that.
And always my biggest question for writers is, where do you get your inspiration and your ideas for writing?
This is going to sound very cliche, but life. You know, as a writer, as a creative of anything, anyone in any creative field, you have to live. You know, you have to go out, you have to do things, go for a walk, or you know, travel, or you know, go to a different place, sit in a coffee shop. You know, the whole thing of people sitting in Starbucks and or working or whatnot. But it's actually not bad because you get to see people. You know, you have to see people, you have to interact with people, you have to listen to people's stories. And that's where you get that's where you get inspiration from. You know, art imitates life. So if you don't live, how can you create art?
And then, what are the biggest challenges you face when producing and writing?
The same challenges that anyone else faces. It's a tough business. You know, there's a lot of people who want to do what everyone else is doing, and it's tough. And you have to be resilient. And you know, it's the business of rejection. You hear no 100 times more than you hear yes, and you have to keep at that, and you have to be okay with hearing no, and you have to be okay with rejection. Yeah.
How are people supposed to handle like rejection? Like they really thought they did well on an audition or something, and then they get rejected. What do you?
You have to have short-term memory. I mean, you really do. You have to forget that. You internalize it. You take it in. You learn from it. You know, if there were any mistakes that you made or maybe you didn't prepare as much as you could have, or maybe you wanted to do it one way, but you went against your instincts and did it another way. You know, you learn from those things, you internalize it, and then you have to forget about it.
So always learn from your mistakes and move on.
Learn from your mistakes and move on. You have to move on quickly.
You
can't dwell on any of this. You have to move on quickly. A lot of times you're rejected for things that really have nothing to do with you. You know, you have no idea why someone says no, and it could have absolutely nothing to do with you, your talent, your creativity, or anything.
And then where do you see yourself now going in the future?
I see myself just continuing to be creative, continuing to, be successful, have my projects seen by the masses, and that's it. I love this industry, I love this business, and I just want to do things that people enjoy. I just want to entertain.
Looking forward to that.
Thank you.
And then, so finally, my last question is, what do you think was the best advice you ever received, and from who?
That's a good one. I've received a lot of advice. Might be hard to, I might not be able to repeat on television, but I will say this, the person who gave me the best advice was Damon Wayans. I can't exactly repeat what he told me, but one day I was going through something and he sat me down and he gave me advice that to this day I look back on every single day. And so for him, I think.
Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for watching The Danesh Show, and we'll see you next time.